hello everybody.
Hello.
All right. This is Chief Tate. Who else do we have on the line?
This is Pollock.
Try that again.
This is Bill Malone.
All right. Hey, Bill.
Hi, Chief.
Paula Creasy's on.
Paula.
Lyle Moore.
Lyle.
Wade Williams.
Wade. How about Brian or Kim or Ed?
So Kim's on. Brian won't be with us today. Ed's here, and we'll tell you about our new employee here in a little bit.
All righty. So.
Carl Stevens is here.
Okay, Carl.
John Nacarado is also at OIT with us.
Give me 1 second.
Craig Howe.
Great.
Tracy Murdoch.
Okay. Anybody else online that hasn't weighed in yet?
That's right.
Joe Rivero.
Hey.
Good. Hi, Randy Leaning.
Erin McLaughlin is also on the line.
Kathy Curlay.
All righty. Well, if that's everyone, that's good because it sounds like we have a quorum at least. So that's a good thing. So why don't we go ahead and just get started, and then we'll let Ed and them update us on the new employees and some of the other stuff going on. But let's go ahead and get the approval of the meetings from the meeting minutes from the last two meetings, since we actually have a quorum and we can actually vote on that. Did anybody have any questions on the meeting minutes?
Chief, I just want to make one note on that. On the May meeting minutes, I had missed the Ashley Verbal from Representative Perlman's office, and I had listed your name twice, so that was corrected in the version that was sent out this week. Those are the only changes.
Perfect. So if nobody else has any changes, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
This is Carl Stevens. I'll make that motion.
All right.
This is Don. I'll second it.
Perfect. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Congratulations. We actually approved meeting minutes. That's been a 2-month-long project. So next we want to welcome Sarah Smith. Ed or Kim, you want to introduce?
Sure. We're excited. We're excited to have Sarah Smith. I'll let her give you a little bit of background about herself, but she started with us this past Monday. She has hit the ground running for us, and we look forward to just, immersing her in everything and her being a great resource. She has some really strong skills in Salesforce. She's a project management professional, a PMP, and has experience in the oil and gas industry. So, Sarah, go ahead.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Smith. Nice to meet you all. I do come from an oil and gas background, but I promise I won't leave you guys. I'm going to stick around for a while. I also come from an environmental background, so I have a lot of experience with volunteering and working with nonprofits and public service. So I was really drawn to this role for the obvious reasons. So far, I'm just in the learning process of educating myself on everything having to do with FirstNet and FirstNet Colorado. So I came at exactly the right time to get in on this governing board meeting. So I'm really excited to be here.
Well, welcome, Sarah.
Thank you.
So with that, let's go ahead and move on to our FirstNet update. Kim?
Yep. So I want to share with you all Tracy Murdoch, who's our regional lead, is on the call today. Tracy, thanks for joining us. And she will try and participate on our governing body calls as she has time and availability. And that'll be a good segue for us to ask any questions perhaps related to FirstNet that may come up in the course of this meeting. Just as a note to everybody, and hopefully it's worked out for all of you, we do intend to continue recording these meetings going forward. And Ed, hopefully you're recording it now.
I did start.
And that way, thank you. And that way, anybody who can't make the meeting will absolutely have the opportunity to listen to it after on our YouTube channel. So the FirstNet Executive Board met a couple of weeks ago. I think there were kind of one big takeaway, which I'm going to ask Tracy to speak to a little bit, and that's the creation of the Chief Customer Office. And then the other minor takeaway was that they signed an additional lease in Boulder. I think it was 5 years with 5 one-year options. So at this point, they intend to keep the CTO office in Boulder for the time being. So Tracy, can I ask you to just talk a little bit about the Chief Customer Office, the collapse of the outreach, consultation, state plan groups into a single customer-facing group, and how you guys envision that working?
Yeah, so the idea is that, thank you, Kim. The idea is that it's all into one team. So it would include like the user advocacy, the state plans and consultation. We're adding a customer care and product management, marketing communications. Everything that's customer facing falls under one team so that it'll allow us to have just better coordination and communication, and then be able to serve the states better. So that's the goal, and I'll look forward to continuing to get that feedback and how as we mature, and to do what's best for Colorado.
Thank you, Tracy. Does anyone have any questions for Tracy about the Chief? The one thing I do want to share is that Rich Reed, who many of you met either at our consultation meeting in 2015 or the one in May of 2016, was appointed as the Chief Customer Officer. So he's now the part of the executive leadership team of FirstNet proper.
Thank you, Kim. I should have said that. Yes. Rich Reed is the lead there.
All right. Any other questions about that piece? I think, we'll be having a call with FirstNet next week, and hopefully if they have more information about the CCO, they'll be sharing that with us, and then we will share that information, pass it on to all of you. So for next item, the Senate hearing, this is really just a link for you if you have time to listen. I also sent you all in previous emails links to the testimony on record, and that information, the Senate hearing was a hearing as a subcommittee that Senator Gardner started, and he did ask a few questions. We worked with his office ahead of time, and we've also been working with his office since to add a few more questions that FirstNet can answer for the record. And as we see the outcome of that, we'll share that information with you. I don't think there was anything, surprising or really newsworthy out of that Senate hearing. It was pretty standard with regards to how they do their oversight of various federal government organizations. So next item, the FirstNet Metro Engagement Meeting in Denver. That has been scheduled for August 24th at Denver Police in their criminal lab conference room or auditorium, I believe. And Chief, do you want to just talk, if you've been kind of coordinating through Denver PD, and then I know Tracy's been circling back. Do you want to talk about, do you know who all has been invited so far or anything?
So right now, they're currently working on getting a bunch of the metro area chiefs, both police and fire, shored up. The entire governing board for Colorado FirstNet is invited to come and participate. And then right now, we're actually working within inside DPD's contacts and stuff, of looking at other affected users that might be interested in, like public works directors and some of those, but we haven't really shored that up for sure who else we're going to invite.
Okay. Do you know, were you guys going to invite, or did you want to invite any outside metro area agencies? We had, I know Aurora was considered a metro area by FirstNet as well. And I broke up, so I didn't know if you said Aurora or Auraria, but.
Yeah, we're looking at basically the entire kind of, Front Range metro areas being metro chiefs. And so we were going to probably put an invite out to all of them just because Denver's so compact that all the chiefs kind of have to work with one another. And so Aurora would be a metro area, but then we have to look to the north, and you got Westminster, you got Thornton that way, and you got Lakewood and Arvada. And so we were going to look and invite them, and then the county sheriffs too. So you got Arapahoe,
Okay.
Jefferson, Adams, all right around Denver.
Very good. I will get an appointment sent out to the governing body, so it holds on their calendar if they have any interest in attending. But there's no obligation to. So, and Tracy, do you want to? I'm sorry, Chief. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if any of the governing body is going to go, make sure we know that, because then we can reserve some parking for everybody, because there's limited parking down at the crime lab.
Okay, I'll be sure to go back. And Tracy, is there a specific, will it be similar to the consultation meeting, or is there different content that FirstNet intends to cover? Do you know?
Yeah, so this is like the next phase of outreach, where we started out, the national level a couple years ago, and then hitting the national associations, and then now working with the states. We did the governing boards, and now we're working our way down to the metro areas, where the idea is that it's more of a discussion. It's similar, but the idea that it's smaller. It sounds like this group you're setting up to be big, similar to the governing body. But TJ, the president, will be out here for Denver's metro engagement, and it's however how you'd like to see it. But we're there to make sure that just to answer questions, to have that discussion. We're just preparing everybody for adoption and address your concerns. So similar, but it's designed to be more intimate, but we will work with you on how you want to do it. I've been working with B-Ling, and so Chief Tate, I know that you were invited. I was very glad, because it was originated, as we understood it, from Chief Dwight from Denver PD, and so it's nice to see everybody coming together to talk about it for one solution. Any questions for me on that? Okay.
Thank you, Tracy. Next item is the Programmatic Environmental Impact Statement meeting, or the PEIS meeting. We have set that for September 20th with FirstNet, their environmental team, and Tracy, I imagine you'll be there as well. I'm not sure who else from FirstNet, and that is slated to be from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. I am working through the city of Denver with Gary Pasnick to see if we can perhaps use one of the community rooms in their police stations that is open 24 hours, and Tracy, that would have easy public access with good parking centrally located. And so we'll be working offline to secure that, or help FirstNet secure a location. One kind of caveat on that is, and Tracy, I may ask you to explain it a little bit, that the intent there is for people to be able to just kind of walk through the room, look at information posted by FirstNet, and ask questions. However, because we don't, we think it's important that people who are remote have the opportunity to participate, we have asked FirstNet to arrange perhaps a 30-minute to 1-hour question and answer period for those who can't attend in person but would like to participate.
And I'll add on to that, but this is a programmatic environmental impact statement meeting. It's a public meeting. It's part of the NEPA requirements that we engage the public, make it so that when the government is doing something that could change the environment or have an impact on the government, that we're completely aware of it. And so this is an open house to explain, say, here's the process, here's what we're looking at, what are your concerns. It's not the type of meeting that's saying, we're going to put a tower here, and what is the impact study that is affecting this tower. It's more of a, here's the process. There'll be posters. It's an open house. The FirstNet environmental team is taking care of like the required public announcements. But it's nice to be working with Brian, Kim, and Ed so that we get the word out to as many Coloradans as we can. By opening up the phone lines, it's not just the people who are in their geographic location. And Kim, I do want to make sure that we're working offline so that the environmental team isn't working in parallel for a location. It sounds like you have a great idea. So yeah, that's what's going on with that meeting.
Great. Yeah, I'll circle back with you on that as well.
Okay.
Great. State assumed RAN planning update. We did close our RFI on July 1st. We are pleased to share that we received 11 responses, and Those responses really are representative of a variety of folks. We got responses from systems integrators, from manufacturers, from some finance people, from telecom carriers, from infrastructure owners. So although we didn't receive a ton of responses from perhaps, let's say, finance or manufacturers, we received 1 or 2 responses across those areas. So we believe that'll give us a good understanding of what that industry might be interested in terms of an alternative plan for Colorado. I did send all of you an NDA if you are interested in being kind of part of the RFI review team, and by that I mean all that does is enable you to be able to review the material. There's no obligation to score or do anything else. You just need to return that NDA to me, and then we will share the link to see that information with any of you who are interested. We are sharing some of that information with other states under NDA as well. And Randy, do you want to speak a little bit to what you've seen on your cursory review of the RFI?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I think we were pleased. Like most, RFP or RFI processes, usually it's the day that it's due where you get an avalanche of stuff, and so that was largely what happened. What I think is nice though is the overwhelmingly all but 1 or 2 responses. People were very thoughtful. They were very responsive to the questions, and I think we ended up with was, and I say they were also very honest about where they could participate and where they couldn't. So, for instance, we might look for people who could build towers or who would be system integrators. And I think the way people responded in terms of, where they expressed interests was very much aligned to what you could see as their skill set. And what's interesting is if you go through and one of the very telling parts of the template was where we just asked people where would they participate, and we gave them a whole bunch of different categories. And and in each category, if you count the number of yeses or maybes, there are yeses in pretty much every area, and oftentimes multiple ones, and people who are qualified. And I guess the one area where we didn't see a lot of response was from major carriers, and my guess is that they're sort of focused on bigger markets at the moment, but they would I'm sure step forward at the appropriate time. But this is I think overall it represented a broad set of skill sets, and I think people were generous in giving advice in terms of how we should think about the problem in response to each of our specific questions.
All right,
Did we
Kim,
lose?
are you there? Did we
Did we
lose
lose
Kim?
Kim?
I think we might have lost Kim.
I'm here. Sorry, I was on mute.
Oh, hard to hear you that way.
Thank you, Randy. I do want to clarify, although we didn't get a large telecom carrier, we did get one local carrier at least. And so that gives us a good, perhaps, insight or a little bit more insight into how a regional carrier might view something like this. And then, Randy, do you want to just talk about where you're at in terms of investigating the P3s?
Oh yeah, so we have basically in parallel to this process too. We've reached out to a large number of parties, and are basically having discussions about how would they. Where would they be interested in participating and really, how should we be thinking about things in terms of a business model, in terms of engaging different types of parties within the state. So I'd say we did an initial wave of interviews and have talked to a lot of the folks who sort of came forth then and have a fair amount of follow-up to do there as well. And that as well as the RFI will all be kind of boiled up into two separate documents, and I think with the RFI sort of summarizing a lot of our the most interesting recommendations and insights, and then probably with the PPP as well. Although in the latter, we're getting some very, very tangible suggestions and great anecdotes, which I think will be helpful.
Thank you, Randy. Are there any questions for Randy on the RFI content or any questions on the NDA process if you'd like to see the documents? If you're happy to just wait for the summary, please feel free to do so. Don't feel like you need to read the information unless you're interested in the details. Next item is the NCAA State Alternative Plan or staff public notice. That notice was published yesterday, I believe, or 2 days ago, and comments are due back on August 18th. I did send that document out to all of you, and again, as the other documents I mentioned, don't feel like you have to go out and read that information, although this document isn't too long. It's only about 18 pages. We are ensuring that that's forwarded to Ken Fellman, who will be doing the review on behalf of cities and counties, and I'll talk about that in a moment. We've sent it to Aaron and Leanne at the AG's office, and then we've also been in contact with the governor's legal counsel proper to ensure that we are making them aware of what's going to begin to happen and that they are engaged and do the legal review they need to do from this perspective. I do want to comment on a few things on a quick pass. I read through it, and it has a lot of concerns in terms of really making, again, it difficult for a state to step through an opt-out process. Some of the items that jumped out at us initially, and again, we don't have a lot of detail yet, and I don't mean to imply this is any sort of interpretation. These are just items taken directly from the document, is that they will obviously be critical of any greenfield sites because they believe that would potentially be cost effective. The federal grant, the FFO, which is essentially the process or the federal announcement to begin the process, will not occur until the state plan. If you read the document, it's a little confusing as to whether that's going to be a draft state plan or it just says a proposed plan. So I think we'll ask that in clarifications to them. But as a result, that means that we will not have any information on potential money available or the specific requirements in stepping through that process any earlier than the time the state plan is presented to the governor, and that could be a challenge. The NTIA has said that they are okay with FirstNet's legal interpretations and are applying those to their interpretations of how they're going to manage this process. They are calling their process a lease authority process and a RAN construction grant process. And both of those, if you do the lease authority and the RAN construction grant, those are reviewed and approved concurrently. But a state could just do a lease authority and not seek any money from the NTIA. One piece that's really of interest, and if you're going to read anything, I would perhaps skip to the section where they talk about that, and that is around page 12 or 13, where they talk about the funding and how they're going to determine funding available to a state. And specifically, they talk about that any increased expenses related to interconnection of the state RAN and mitigation of interference to a bordering state is the responsibility of the state, and the state their financial factors may be impacted by how FirstNet and its partner feel impacted by income that is lost. Again, that just kind of aligns with FirstNet's interpretation, and in some ways, potentially sets up a situation where a state is penalized, whether, FirstNet and the NTIA and the partners' interpretation of a penalization might be different than a state. So that's information I think we're going to ask legal counsel at all levels to look at closely. Couple other things is they talked a lot about responsibility to interoperate with FirstNet, but none of those requirements have been articulated yet, obviously because the partner has not been selected. And then another item I found of note towards the end is they talk about comparable timelines, and it also implies that if a state were to select a partner that had a more aggressive timeline than what FirstNet could have, that perhaps the state might be required to step back and slow it down. Again, we'll ask for interpretation from our AGs and Ken Fellman on that, and we will likely ask NTA questions like that. So some things that, you know, from our perspective, raise our eyebrows initially. Again, not an attorney, and don't play one on television, so I just would encourage you to go through and read that if you have time and interest. Otherwise, we will be working to get some drafts ready in the next 30 days for review and then submission to the NTIA. Does anybody have any other thoughts or questions on that notice if you've read it? And I know, Randy, I don't know if you've read it much yet either, but.
I haven't, just superficially, but yeah, no, I picked up on a lot of those things as well, and some good things for us to process.
Okay, well then if there's no other questions on that topic, just a quick update on the working groups. We have met with each group a few times, at least once in the past month. We are only convening these groups when we have something to talk about. And we have secured the 4 people who are going to attend the CTT in August in Bozeman. It's going to be Scott Newman from our City of Aurora. It'll be Kevin Cromer, who's an Eagle County Sheriff's Deputy. It'll be Mick McQuilton, who is an LMR and has some tech in Eagle County and has some wildland firefighting experience. And then Ken Wetstein, who represents Colorado Volunteer Firefighters and is a volunteer firefighter with many years, I believe, from the Eastern Plains. So those will be the 4 attending, and then Ed and I will likely be attending as well, and we'll give you input as to how that comes out after. So. And then the last thing I have is just a generic projects update. The only thing I would share on that is that we are getting ready to, now that Sarah has started, begin the asset vetting process for our opt-out network that we designed in theory, and Randy's been working with us on that. Signals has been providing support. So hopefully we'll be able to come up with a finalized design in the next, I would say, 2 months or less. So. Hey, Chief, that's my FirstNet update.
Perfect.
So,
Thank you,
Chief,
Sam.
This is Tracy. If we could, before we leave FirstNet, if I could have my time back.
Sure.
Okay, so I want to say that on the CTT, you guys have put together an excellent team, and I'm excited to be working with them. But the whole idea is that we have operators that are coming together to talk about how the system should be used. So it's one thing to build it, and it's another thing to come up with common policies about how to use it. And this CTT is about what does the operator want, not how we're going to make it happen, but how would he like to see that priority preemption and the quality of service go. So that should be a really good meeting, and I appreciate all the support from Colorado. The second thing is that I consider myself your champion on the FirstNet side, bringing all your concerns back to FirstNet headquarters, or national, as Kim calls it. And one of the things, as you know, that we're doing is preparing to have the plans done as fast as we can after we have the vendor is selected or identified in November. Then the next big thing is to prepare Colorado's plan. And I know that Brian Shepard has said that the whole idea of going out and doing the RFI is trying to make sure that Colorado's interests are protected and we can get the best network possible in Colorado, which is, of course, what we all want for the first responders. And I've put forth to FirstNet National that the top concerns for Colorado of what you're looking in the plan, this is where my question is to you, is the coverage, the timeline, the accountability of the vendor to meet their goals, and then just the whole finances of the cost to the agency, to the user, the cost to the state that maybe it hasn't been totally clarified, just concerned about that, and then just all of the income, is it going back into Colorado, is it going back into the nation as a network, as a system? So those are my 4 things. Does that sound about right?
So I think it touches on most of them. I think there's also significant concern from the majority of the would-be users in Colorado on local control, as far as establishing really who is authorized to be on the system, who makes that determination, how do they get put on, how do they come off, especially in like a lot of places in rural Colorado. There'll be people that really serve in a first responder role that aren't traditionally thought as a first responder. And so there's a lot of concern about, you know, who's making that decision about who's on the system and allowed to utilize the system as well.
Okay, thank you, Chief. I'll add that one. Perfect. You're right.
And then anybody else from the board, if we missed something, jump in here right now. Anyone? All right.
Yeah, excuse me, Chief, this is Bill Malone.
Yeah, Bill.
Yeah, I was just wondering, and maybe Tracy could offer some insight into this. We know that FirstNet's not made the election on who they're going to pick, what vendor, but there are operational issues that could certainly be answered from a broader perspective on what the outlook would be, because I think there are a tremendous amount of very critical operational questions that could and probably will influence people's decisions, not only at the state and the government, the FNC level, but at the local users before they'll sign on. And I just wonder if Tracy has any idea when FirstNet's going to come out of incubation and actually start talking about things, even if it's from a broad perspective, but a little bit narrower than just totally broad. For example, you talk about it, and you sort of touched on it, Chief, but when you talk about who's going to get on the system, who can use it, I would add questions on whose data is it when it's on that system? Who owns that data? Does federal government own that data? Does FirstNet own that data? Or is it the responder that's contracted with the vendor that owns that data? These are very critical questions that need to be advanced to FirstNet, and frankly, I think FirstNet likes to hide under the fact that, oh, we're still working to pick a vendor. Well, they should have an operational philosophy irrespective of what vendors picked. So that's a question I would have for Tracy or whoever.
Perfect. Good question.
Okay, Bill, that is a good question. Thank you for that. On some of those operational issues, the consultation task teams are set up to get that input to influence that network policy as far as like we talked about local control, that one that they are looking at having that one. Also, who owns the data, that's a good one. I'm going to bring that one back. And so it is coming. It's not as fast as we would like to, but yes. And I appreciate the input, and let me go back and get more information for you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to add anything else for Tracy before we move on to outreach? Take that as a no. Ed, how about some outreach?
All right, so we continue to do all those normal things. We're still engaging with the counties, trying to give them that piece, those who haven't seen the coverage modeling, and those who have seen it, we're trying to take it to another level. We've also been engaging, for example, Kim and I were out last week, and we engaged with the South region, South Central, about emerging technologies and how this technology could possibly work, and what benefits it'll give us, what kind of applications, capabilities, etc. So continued outreach on the county level, also in the all-hazard region. We're circling around and just making sure that everybody has a good understanding of everything that we've done from A to wherever we're at, M or N, everything that we know so far to make sure everybody has a good understanding. What we are finding is that people are up to speed. They have a good working knowledge of what it is and where we're at as a state. So we'll continue to work through that and update folks. We are working this next year to make sure that we engage on a different level. And we are trying to get into the plenary sessions of a lot of the conferences that we've done in these last few years. Obviously, our stakeholders are tired of just hearing the same old. They want to hear some fresh stuff. But we do believe it'll be critical, at least by probably January or maybe that second quarter, that we're in front of large bodies of folks. And so we're going to work on getting in front of plenary sessions. Will mentioned that our XPSLTE was mentioned in article in EMS World. I just finished writing an article for Colorado Firefighter magazine, and Kim edited it. It made it 10 times better because of those edits. And so we're looking forward to that coming out. Haven't gotten a release date on that. We are working on some conferences right now. We were just asked to participate in the Fire Rescue International down in Dallas and to help staff the booth, to which Brian has said that I can go down and do that. So we'll be helping out at least one of those days. We are also going to speak at the National Emergency Medical Services Safety Conference here in Denver. We've asked SME, Brent Williams with FirstNet, to join us and give a download from FirstNet National. Additionally, we're doing 3 sessions in the Fire Leadership Challenge 2016, and we're excited about that. First of all, we're doing what we've done every year. I think Eric started this, and Eric and I did it one year. I did it last year. But we're going to do that session where we've invited Mike Worrell, which is the subject matter expert for FirstNet, to join us with that. But what's really exciting is they've let me in on the leadership team for this, and we're going to do 2 other sessions on augmented and virtual reality. And we're trying to do kind of a la XPSLTE, bring in a bunch of vendors and really have some hands-on experience. So we'll let you know about that as it comes. I'll be speaking at the 5G Wireless Conference in November. Then working through the list here. Newsletter, we went to just 2 newsletters here in the summer. So you saw one that just went out, which is called the early summer. We'll have one that's called the latter or late summer. And then we'll do some assessment and see what kind of cadence we need moving forward. With Sarah on, we're glad to have her. We are going to finally get that website refresh done, and we have a meeting with communications next week. So once we get her lined out on that, she'll go through with fresh eyes, look at what we've done, point out where we need to make it better. And she's already come up with some great ideas about how we can engage our stakeholders from the website and some ways that we can actually keep them well informed. So she'll also be helping me in the marketing area. She's got some great ideas as well. So hang on, it's going to be awesome. The online training is, for all practical purposes, finished. We are waiting for the final revisions from folks that are putting that together, and they are waiting for a video that is first responder specific so that they can upload that. But we're very close to that. We'll be able to get that in the system here shortly, and we'll keep you informed on that. We have put together an extensive video featuring our own Chief Tate. He starts us off for the XPSLTE, and we should be able to send you that link maybe by Wednesday or Thursday of next week, once we've had a chance to go through, look at it, and make some edits. But anyway, a lot of stuff going on. Again, don't forget about our overview and training sessions. Those of you who are online with me, we've already completed North Central Region, Northeast Region in Fort Collins. We did South Region in Pueblo. We did the West Region in Gunnison. And this didn't update well. Yesterday, Emil and I were out at Southeast Region in Lamar. And we have coming up San Luis Valley. That's on Tuesday, August 2nd. South Central on August 3rd. And Southwest Region August 4th. So if you know anybody that needs to be at these, for those of you who are not familiar with this is just a basic down and dirty about what is LTE technology, how does it work, and how is it going to be different or similar to land mobile radio. We're getting great comments. Emil's doing a really good job on those, and so we ask you to come in and look at those. I did talk to Brian as well. So we will, after we're done with this schedule here that you're looking at, we will have done 9 sessions. And we will have captured the 9 all-hazard regions. So we have one left in pocket. Sometime after school settles down, maybe by the end of September, we're going to try and have an event here where we can bring everybody in that missed it and try and have a big event. And then we'll also record it and do a really nice job. I talked to our communications team, and they'll be able to help us out so that we'll be able to put down a real nice product and get that on our YouTube channel. Anyway, you can check on the, you can always check if you want to know what's going on. That front splash page, you can see what we're doing. We have our events listed there in the calendar. The tweets go out. And then we'll be using more of our blogging or in the what's happening section. So check back often. That's all I have, Chief.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Ed. AdCom, do we have any updates from AdCom?
I don't have any updates. Bill Malone, to put you on the spot, I haven't spoken with Mike or Joel recently. Have you heard anything?
Yeah, they've been working on the updating on the core with the VCR network, and I think that's progressing very well for them. So it was a time issue, and it was time to update that overall core operation. The VCR network's been performing very good, so I expect that this update will even improve it further.
Perfect, good. All right, any legal issues? Brian's not here, so back to you, Kim.
So I'm pleased to share that we are in final approval for an MOU between CCUA, the Colorado Commissions and Utilities Association, and OIT. The intent there is that CCUA has an existing legal services contract with Kissinger and Fellman. And many of you know Ken Fellman. He's a reputable and very experienced telecom lawyer, as well as significant local government experience. In fact, he was a mayor of the city of Arvada at one point. He will be doing that review. We have letters of support from CML and CCI for CCUA to engage him on behalf of all of you local folks to ensure that a legal interpretation is done of the statute and the interpretations from a local Colorado perspective. That information is not going to be necessarily made available to OIT. We're going to ensure that relationship and that privilege is kept and managed between CCUA, CML, CCI, all of you, and then we'll work back with the AG's office and the governor's office legal staff to determine how we share that information and how and as it needs to be shared. And so, Aaron, I didn't say anything incorrect there, did I?
I think that Leanne and I are expecting to talk with you and Brian just about kind of the MOU and how everything works, and then get back to you on our thoughts with that.
Right. So that's the intent there. So hopefully, and then also that MOU implies that most of that initial work would be done before October of this year. So that's the timeline for it.
Perfect. And you might as well just keep going, Kim, into old and new business.
Nope. So the old business, I don't think we'll hit on this too much. We talked about it a couple times, but I think, again, one thing that this group will need to consider, especially once we see the summary outputs of our RFA and make a decision about whether we step to an RFP, is the funding associated with that. While some of the burden can be borne internally by OIT, I think it'd be irresponsible of us to not, contract for services to ensure that we put the best RFP possible on the street. So that's just a topic we need to continue to talk about. Okay. And then with asset sharing, we did a quick discussion about asset sharing with our business planning working group. I'd be happy to share that link if any of you have any interest in listening to it. We had some good conversation with Chief Henninger from the town of Vail and with Gary Passing from the city and county of Denver to understand kind of their perspectives with regards to long-term asset sharing, certainly in an opt-out plan, but potentially even in an opt-in, and understanding the ramifications should FirstNet and their partner eventually be open to using public assets. So that's all.
Great. So with that, anybody have any questions or general discussion or anything else they want to bring up? I'm not hearing a whole lot, so I'm going to assume no. And then we'll just go ahead and, before we close out, Kim or Ed, do you want to go over the upcoming dates for conferences and trainings?
Sure. Ed hit on the training dates. The APCO conference is in Orlando, mid-August. We are sending Daryl Branson, who's the 911 telecom analyst for DORA and the PUC, to that using SLIC funds. He'll be attending a lot of the FirstNet-related activities. There's others of you planning to attend APCO. Please let me know. We could likely partially fund some of that potentially. We mentioned the consultation task teams and then the PEIS meeting. Our next meeting is August 18th, 2:30, likely via web or call, unless somebody wants to host. And then I would ask, I think I captured most, but if you did not mention that you were on the call today. Could you just shoot me an email if you joined late? That's all.
Perfect. Thank you, Kim. And if nobody else has anything, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. So thank you, everybody, for coming, and we'll talk to you on the 18th.
Guys.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.